Late last year, there was such an issue of controversy was raging. It was about a land that the former president, John Dramani Mahama, is said to be occupying. We're told that it's developed by a real estate company, but it's become such a subject of controversy, like I said, because it was raised by Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwo at a Meet the Press series, and there were a lot of talk about it. Well, there's a ruling on that land today. We're told that there's a ruling by the Appeals Court of Appeal, and I'm joining the studio by Emmanuel Odoye-Iyemo. I've brought his name out. Yes, you know you must know Odoye-Iyemo. He's Emmanuel Odoye-Iyemo. He's the Executive Secretary of the East Dadekotopon Development Trust. Also in the studios we have Ni Dadekotopon the first, that's Ni Abese, and also the Chairman of the East Dadekotopon Development Trust. Good afternoon, gentlemen, and welcome.
Manyeba.
Okay, and a happy new year as well.
Same to you.
Afiya nebani nao.
Afiya ni ebani nao.
Okay, thank you. So you're welcome. Let's talk about this land in question. There's been a lot of talk about this land. What really should we know about this particular land?
Well, what I will say is that if we're talking about the trust lands, then we're talking about a land that in 1997 we went to court. If I said we went to court, I mean the last two took 1 or 2 quarters to court. We fought for some time, and we later realized that it's not in the best interest of the La people. Why? Because while we were in court, there's this Teshi faction that is also disposing our lands. So there was a need that we come together and resolve the matter. So that matter in court was resolved, and we had a consent judgment.
Okay.
All right? It was this consent judgment that orders were given that a trust should be formed to manage the lands. So when we're talking about trust land, this is where we drive from.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that land spans includes the trade fair, the land behind the trade fair, which has become such a huge subject of controversy, where the former president, John Dramani Mahama, lives. Is that the same land?
The geographical description of the land starts from the south along the road in front of the two big hotels.
Okay.
La Palm and
Labadi Beach.
Yeah. To the north, it shares boundary with the airport. To the east, it shares boundary with the Burma Camp area and the La Cemetery. And to the west, it shares boundary with what we call the Bush Road or Mangocho Street.
That's a vast land.
Yes.
Well, interesting. But let's talk about this particular one. I understand there's a ruling, the Court of Appeal.
There is a judgment.
That's a judgment. When was this judgment given?
It was given on the 20th November, 30th November 2017, just recent.
Okay, so what was the judgment of the court?
The judgment of the court was that the title over the entire stretch of land that the East Dadekotopon development has on the land is still intact, and that the claimants or the plaintiffs, their case was thrown out of court for not being in merit. It lacked merit. So they lost their case at the appeal court also.
Okay, so is this the same case that we had in court with the Traditional Council? Because it looks like there are a number of cases on this particular land.
Very well.
So give us details. Is it the same one?
Well, we have a lot of challenges over this land. And if you read the press release, you can see a couple of cases has been mentioned.
Yeah.
All the judgment is saying is, all the claimants, all the people that challenge us over the land has lost their cases. Those who went on appeal also has lost. So the Court of Appeal has affirmed the title ownership of the land. So as we speak, the legitimate owners of this land is the trustees or the trust to be precise.
So it overrules all other cases?
Yes, if somebody is flying some high court ruling or judgment or any circuit court judgment in town, just slash this on the person's face that, look, we are aware, you can't continue deceiving the public. If the Court of Appeal and even some judgment from the Supreme Court has affirmed the title, the ownership of the trust, who are you to go and fly some lower court judgment to deceive the public?
Okay. But this judgment was given on the 30th of November. But like I said, late last year, this issue was a subject of controversy in the media, being discussed all over, that it looks like the East Dadekotopon Development Trust did not own this land and that the president, the former president, was occupying a government land.
The former president is occupying a house that has been built by an estate developer, for which the East Dadekotopon Development Trust is in joint ventureship.
Okay.
And that land is not part of government land. If it was part of government land, the estate developers could not have processed their documents and had land title certificates.
There's a possible encroachment.
No, they are not encroaching because the government land boundary is known.
Okay.
Because the government land we are talking about in this case is the land that was acquired in 1944 on the title of Anti-Amiral Aerodrome Extension for airports, not for military. So that's the government land. And the boundary is known.
Okay. But is government in talks with the East Dadekotopon Development Trust for some land acquisition for the Ghana Armed Forces? Is there any such talks? Because we are told that government is interested in this particular land that you've given to the real estate developers, and they have been in talks with you, and then now it looks like there's some bad faith ongoing.
Well, government showed interest in the totality of the land as from 1979, when the proposal was prepared. But as at 2001, government have not completed acquisition by way of executive instruments. So the land had lied sterile up to this period, from 79 to 2001. So the East Dadekotopon Development Trust took government to court by suing Attorney General for ownership of the land. And judgment was granted to the East Dadekotopon Development Trust as the legitimate owners of the land. So we have judgment against government. Okay. And so we've taken back our land.
So up until 2001, you're saying that there was no, firmed up agreement between the East Dadekotopon and then government on that particular land?
Sure.
So there's no way government can claim that those are government lands?
Recently, some military men encroached on our lands. We approached them. We had a series of meetings with them, then Commodore Abbas and Commodore Asante. And we all came to understanding that, look, we have not entered the state land, but it is you, rather, who have built, as we speak. The military has some structures on our land, our title certificate land.
Outside the government land.
You understand? So if anything, we should be complaining, not them. All right? And another writ was also issued, which the Attorney General came in, and a letter was written to the military to stay away from the trust lands.
Okay. So I see, I'm reading portions of your statement that the case, it looks like it's also going to the Supreme Court as well. There's been a Court of Appeal and then Supreme Court as well.
Yes, portions of it has gone to the Supreme Court,
which we have won.
You have won as well. Yes. So from the High Court level, the Appeals Court level, the Supreme Court level.
Yes,
so why is there still issues around the same land if we've gone as far as the Supreme Court and there's been a judgment in your favor?
You see, very often when people want land and they're looking for land, they are quick to go to people who claim that they own the land. And very often these people are gullible because they will tell them a lot of stories. Because there are certain judgments in and around which have been overtaken by Appeal Court and Supreme Court. But the people are still holding the High Court judgment, which has been stayed. And they convince people for it. And that's why we are saying that people who want to buy such land must make due diligence. Let their lawyers conduct due diligence for them before they make payments. Other than that, they will have themselves to blame. And very often, these people want to buy the land cheaper.
Okay.
And that is the problem.
It's a very expensive land.
Yes, because it's prime land. Imagine if you are at East Legon and you are driving to Accra, and you are at La, and you are driving to Accra. Who comes to Accra faster? Okay,
so if I would want to get a land in that prime area, how much will a plot, for instance, within a range?
Let's not discuss this here.
Let me come in here. You see, the trust was not formed to sell lands.
Okay.
Now, in 1997, there was a task force who was formed to oversee to these lands. After the litigation, this trust, the task force were given parcels of lands. So the trustees regularized their document, perfected for them. So individually, you can see one or two people having a plot of land, they're selling. But the trust will invest the land. Now, people come to us, want to buy 10 acres, want to buy 15 acres, and we tell them we don't sell it. If you want to go into joint venture with us, then fine. Now, these people, from one way or the other, want to buy the land, they want to own the land. And because we don't sell it, they go out there and try to fish out people who have interests over there. This has also caused a lot of problems with us because people don't have land, but because people have money to give it to them without doing due diligence, they just get some land guards with them and then start doing, you know, the land is a quite large tract of land.
Yes, it is.
And the security personnel we have is not enough. Before you realize, you'll be sitting in the office and they will tell you some developer is on your land. You go there, some people have connived with some members from the quarters, some quarters of land, and selling our lands. These are the challenges we've been having since. All right, and that is what compels us to even go to court with the traditional council.
But I can tell you for a fact that after this interview, we will get another faction coming up to contest everything that you said on this program. I'm sure you don't doubt that, do you?
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. The last time we had a press conference, we gave a legitimate document to your colleagues. So it's not about anybody just walking in to claim.
They also come with documents.
Please, just hold it. It's not about anybody just walking in to come and say, we are this. Now, when we were in court, at the High Court, the Traditional Council tried to form another para-trust, which is against the rules, because the Traditional Council has no mandate. They don't have the legal right to form any trustees. The trustees are appointed from the settlement of the High Court. Okay. Listen carefully. We settled the matter at the High Court, which we had a consent judgment. These are 2, 3, 4 quarters. Now, since time immemorial, the trustees are being appointed from these various quarters. Leshe, Ngati, Abese, and Kwe. Abese and Kwe are the occupants of the last two.
In fact, they rotate on the stool.
Okay. Now, the Traditional Council did not go to court to have any matter settled or resolved, to have a consent judgment. So there is no way they can go and form a trust. Now, if the Lamanche has an issue with the trust, you don't go and form a para-trust. It's against the trustees.
Okay.
So that is the problem we have here. And we are saying that these people, once we are in the High Court and the Appeal Court with them, they chose to go to the lower court, the Circuit Court, to go and take an order from there to go and eject the trustees from the office whilst I was away. You get me? So if somebody walk in here and says that he has a document, ask the person whether he derived his title from the Circuit Court. And if it's from the Circuit Court, then you don't have any moral right to come and sit here. But if you are having orders from the High Court, from the Supreme Court or the Appeal Court, then fine. But you can't go and deceive people with orders. That judgment they're holding has been challenged at the High Court as we speak.
So if it's from the Circuit Court,
once a judgment is given and appeal is made on that judgment, what does it mean?
It throws it out.
Fine. So you don't deceive the public by still holding that circuit court judgment that has been challenged.
We just hope that this issue will be resolved peacefully now that we have a judgment from the Court of Appeal.
Yeah.
But we're told that there was some activity of land guards and vigilante groups from other factions and your factions as well. How true is this, and how are we hoping to ensure that there's peace now that you have a judgment?
Well, these activities started earnestly, and we realized that they were becoming an issue. So we quickly approached the Minister of Interior and IGP to ensure that these things are nipped in the bud. In fact, we even went to the Southern Command, the officer in charge, and we discussed the issues with them. I said, well, once the land is close to the Burma camp, that becomes sensitive for the military also. So they will also come in. And for some time, they flushed the land guards from the area.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But since this ruling, do we still have any activity on there? Do we have peace on
Well, those who enter the land now are a flash.
Okay.
A flash of the land guardism. But when our anytime our security officers get there, they just run off.
Okay, so it's under control.
Now, let me also add this to it. The office that we occupied, that was invaded, was built by us. That office was built by us. Okay? Now, we can also go on our way by organizing some land guards talks, vigilantes to go and meet. But is that right, if we should do that?
No.
So we're going by the law. We've taken the matter to the court to have that judgment from the circuit court quashed.
Okay.
So if you belong to that group, what nerves do you have to come and sit here or anywhere to say that you are a trustee, you have document? What kind of document do you have?
Okay, so anytime this issue about lands comes up, you have people, some of your indigents, sending messages and finding out how we are investing these lands to their benefit as your, subjects as well. I'm sure quickly we can wrap up on that one.
If you sit here and put people in office and you want them to account for their stewardship, what do you do? Do you go and form another officers to throw them out of court before you call them for anything? We don't do that. So we believe that they've done the illegal thing. We didn't just get up and form our trustees. We were appointed from various quarters.
Okay. So we are investing the lands properly for them, for their future.
The trust deed had indicated how the proceeds that will accrue from our activities, how it should be distributed.
Okay.
And then it went further to indicate how the issues that will crop up must be resolved. They are all in the trust deed. Okay. And we must all go by it.
Okay. So I'm grateful for your time, gentlemen. Right?
Yes, you're right.
But let me also caution the media here. Let me be frank. I was aware when my office was invaded, and I am the chairman of the trust. Obviously, I will not be happy.
Deal with us kindly, please.
Thank you. Let me tell you something. When people claim ownership of something, you please, before you allow them, before you interview them, make sure you are dealing with the right people. Other than that, before you realize...
We always do, because with this particular interview, we've done our due diligence before you enter the studio. So definitely you can trust...
because we held a press statement this morning.
No, you can trust that as for us, we'll definitely do due diligence to be sure.
And then you hear somebody on air, and you ask yourself, on what capacity is the person speaking?
Okay.
You understand me? Now, somebody says, I'm this, I'm that, and that. And look, the document you are holding has been challenged. You don't need to come and raise...
We hope you all be forthcoming with information. That's the only way we can deal with the right persons.
So when we are saying that, we've given you copies of the judgment, legitimate document. You can also go to the court and investigate and
Of
see
course.
whether what we are.
You know, multimedia we do. Thank you
Beautiful.
very much, Mr.
Thank you so much.
Neo is
Thank
the
you.
Executive Secretary of the East Dadekotopon Trust, Development Trust. We also were joined in the studio by Ni Kwade Okropong the First, the Ni Abese, and also the Chairman of the East Dadekotopon Development Trust. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. The pause will take a very short break. We'll be right back.